Ladies and gentlemen, history is officially repeating itself here. Young people are giving up on their country, refusing to work, start families, or fight wars. And they're not lazy at all. They're being totally rational about the increasingly bad deal society has handed them. And they're rejecting it. The elites are becoming increasingly selfish, arrogant, and decadent, believing they can get away with anything until they can't. Society is collapsing in all around us right now. And this might not actually be as bad as it sounds. In fact, maybe, just maybe, it's actually even necessary for us to build something better out of its ashes. And maybe this generation is in the perfect position to be prepared for it. A lot of us in the modern day often wonder what it must have been like to live through the collapse of the Roman Empire, to watch the mightiest empire in all of history crumble right in front of your eyes in real time. And the answer is a lot more disappointingly ordinary than you might think. The collapse of Rome wasn't a singular cataclysmic one-day event. It was a series of bad decisions and unfortunate circumstances unfolding over the course of centuries. You could have lived through the collapse of the Roman Empire and barely even noticed it, depending of course on which exact year it was. Now, the collapse of America today, on the other hand, is happening much faster, much more violently, and spectacularly. This is a truly epic historical event we're witnessing right now. Future generations are going to ask us what it was like to live through the collapse of the Roman Empire 2.0, and it's going to be a hell of a story to tell. Part 1. Hyperinflation. In the year 215, during the crisis of the 3rd century, elite Roman politicians began doing something that will sound very familiar to you. They began rapidly minting out Roman coins in order to pay for increasingly expensive civil wars and military expenses. The rapid debasement of Rome's currency caused the silver denarius to plummet from over 90% purity in the 1st and 2nd centuries to less than 5% by 270 AD. This sounds really bad, and to be clear, it is. Until you compare it to the modern day and realize it's even far worse now. You may have heard that the US dollar has lost over 85% of its value since 1971. We're literally speed running the collapse of our own currency at a rate that would make the worst Roman emperors feel much better about themselves. By the time it was all over, the denarius had lost so much of its value that people ironically reverted to a barter system, as it was simply the logical thing to do. Ironically, I and many other young people in this community and throughout the world have personally found one cheat code that can help you survive this broken economy is actually bartering. During my mid-20s, I mostly got by volunteering 20 hours a week in exchange for free food and shelter during my travels. I personally found that this was just far more efficient than working 40, 50, 60 hours per week just to not even be able to afford food and rent anyways. Now, this was a huge eye-opening experience for me, as it was the first time in my adult life when I was able to save up any meaningful amount of money. But it's also a symptom of a much wider, broader disease hampering society as a whole. Money is the primary incentive structure that keeps the lifeblood of society running. People work hard and contribute because they believe they'll be rewarded for it. The debasement and devaluation of money itself isn't just deadly for an individual's bank account, it's a huge threat to society entirely. If the reward you're offering me is just gonna lose 90% of its value anyways, well, what's the point of even doing anything at all? The Romans learned the answer the hard way, and it looks like we are right now in real time as well. Hey guys, you may have noticed we're getting very close to 50,000 subscribers now. This has always been a huge milestone in our eyes, so if you're new here and enjoying this content, definitely consider subscribing and helping us get closer to this big magic number. Thanks a bunch, you guys are the best. Part 2. Legitimacy collapse. Governing a society of millions of people is a complicated task. When you have millions of people competing over scarce and limited resources, there's bound to be violence, crime, or just good old decadence. So the big question every society must ask itself is, how do we keep this under control? Historically speaking, there's one of two ways you can do it. Option one, you can try to do it through brute force, surveillance, sheer terror, and brutality. This method, while effective, often ends up becoming too costly, both in terms of money and energy, and so most societies end up choosing option two. Set up an intricate system of incentives, rules, and promises so that people end up naturally governing themselves. And for the most part in the modern day, we've chose option two. And for the most part, it's worked up until now. You see, option two requires something called legitimacy in order to function. The people have to believe in the legitimacy of the system itself, and the system has to prove its legitimacy by delivering on its promises. And as we've all experienced, this is just no longer the case. We were told that if we went to college and got good grades, we'd be rewarded with a good job. That never happened. We were told that if we worked hard, we'd be rewarded with the American dream. And that dream is long gone now. We were told that we need to work hard to save for retirement, a retirement which none of us will ever even see. The youth have realized the entire system is a massive joke and a scam. And past threats and incentive only work if legitimacy itself was intact. And right now, it's rapidly collapsing. I see this in the comments literally all the time, and it's why I think Gen Z is just so based. You can't tell them to study hard or they'll end up working at McDonald's because, well, they've seen that you're just going to end up working at McDonald's anyways. You can't tell them that they got to work hard to save up for a house and retirement because they've rightfully seen that, well, they're not getting those things anyways, no matter how hard they work. You can't dangle money as a carrot in front of their face to enslave them the way you did for past generations because, well, they've seen firsthand just how quickly and rapidly money can lose its value. So this all begs the question, is there a historical parallel to the collapse of the Roman Empire here? And are we living through it once again? Well, as it turns out, the answer is a massive yes. Part 2, military decline. One big historical factor that led to the decline and eventual collapse of Rome was the decline and eventual collapse of its once mighty, feared military. Being a Roman soldier was once a sign of great honor, wealth, status. Soldiers once received land and property for their service, a significantly better than average wage, and were generally very honorable in the eyes of the general public. This all changed in the 3rd and 4th centuries as a result of the aforementioned hyperinflation. And this is where the modern day parallels to Gen Z get really interesting. Much like today, wages began to lag behind inflation. And for such a dangerous job like the military, well, this was a really bad deal. The land grants they once were given first shrank and then vanished altogether. Veterans who came back from war often found themselves heavily taxed and financially very insecure. And per usual, it wasn't just the economy that collapsed, legitimacy collapsed right alongside it. People stopped aspiring to be brave and honorable soldiers. In fact, they began looking at it as an increasingly desperate financial career move, and it became viewed as a job only for the poor and desperate, and as a result, nobody wanted anything to do with it. And as a result, the Roman Empire became increasingly dependent on recruiting captured barbarian tribes to fill up their military ranks. These guys, needless to say, had far less loyalty to Rome, and the more they depended on them, the worse it got. When you compare it to modern day parallels, the similarities are once again shocking. Now, we've all seen countless videos racking up millions of views from young Zoomers all over the internet expressing the same sentiment. Hell no, we're not going to die in your wars, because what the hell are we even dying for? And that is a great question that the elites can't even answer anymore. We're never going to be able to buy a house, raise a family, or move up the career ladder, so what the hell is even the point? National loyalty has plummeted to all-time lows, and this is 100% logical and rational from Gen Z. Funny enough, by the way, we're seeing the exact same desperate last-ditch countermeasures by the elites now too. Back in the Roman Empire, they tried replacing Romans with barbarians in the military, and today they're trying to import as many migrants as possible to fill in the labor gaps. Both tiny band-aids on a gaping bullet wound, a pathetic attempt to cover up symptoms instead of addressing the larger overall problem. Now, I personally don't think Gen Z is necessarily anti-American at the end of the day. They're just anti-bad deals. And both America and Rome started giving out increasingly bad deals to their population in their later days, and that is what ultimately led to the collapse of an empire. Part 4. Elite behavior. Now, this is where the modern parallels go from eerily similar to a literal carbon copy. The Roman elites hated paying taxes, and towards the end of the empire, they started moving away to avoid taxes. I guess rich people being assholes is a timeless, universal thing. This left an unsustainable and untenable situation where the working poor and middle class had to pay increasingly higher and higher amounts of taxes to fund the empire. Every time we have a conversation about taxing the rich, the inevitable, but what if they leave question pops up. And the grand irony in all of this is that once again, it exposes how we as a society pretty much only care for and worship the rich. There are countless poor and middle class people leaving America right now as we speak because they can't afford to live there anymore either. I would know because I'm one of them. I left America for Europe around a decade ago because the sheer lack of social services for even basics like universal healthcare. Now, there is a world in which, with more social support, I would have gone to college, gotten a job, and become a contributing taxpayer to the American economy. Now, let's be real, America isn't going to be shedding any tears over my own individual exit. I'm just one guy here. But if millions upon millions of young people just decide to check out and leave, that's going to have far more devastating effects, and we're already seeing it right now. 19% of Gen Z men and a stunning 41% of Gen Z women already want to leave America right now, today. And for a country that's so concerned with plummeting birth rates and a rapidly diminishing social security fund, this many young people exiting would be absolutely catastrophic. And we need to start thinking about capital flight in these terms as well. So, is it then? Are we witnessing the collapse of the Roman Empire in real time? Are we doomed to repeat history and enter another 1,000 years of darkness? Well, that's certainly a possibility. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But I don't think the future is quite set in stone yet either. History rhymes, but it never exactly repeats itself. And there are a few factors that are different enough that we could be looking at a different and better outcome this time around. Part 4, Gen Z is prepared. The primary difference between the current collapse we're living through and the collapse of Rome is that this one is actually far more rapid, sudden, and visceral. The world moves much faster now, and this means that the collapse is going to happen over the course of a decade rather than a century. This might sound like a bad thing, but it does have one silver lining. We won't have the luxury of a slow and gradual decline that we'll live through while barely noticing. We're going to have to come up with a solution quickly and decisively, and we won't have a choice. One other key difference and potential saving grace is that, at least for now, we still live in a democracy and not an empire. There has been a sudden surge of Gen Z and millennials running for office and pulling off unexpected surprise wins all around the nation as of late, or just straight up starting up revolutions all around the world and removing the out-of-touch boomer elites through sheer force and determination. When you read the tea leaves, you'll see there is a huge appetite for young, fresh new faces in leadership positions now. We all know that the system isn't working, and trying to make it within the system is impossible, pointless, and just not worth the effort at this point. The only way forward at this point is to take up the leadership roles ourselves, and so we can dictate our own future. And perhaps no clip proves it better than this right here.
Existing housing, people that own their homes, we're going to keep them wealthy. We're going to keep those prices up. We're not going to destroy the value of their homes so that somebody that didn't work very hard can.
I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. This was just a total betrayal towards the youth. The same demographic who voted him in because he promised to help them. Nothing screams narcissistic, selfish boomer more openly and actively than screwing over the entire rental market for young people so that your fellow narcissistic, selfish boomers can keep their house prices high. And what we need right now is the exact opposite. We need leaders who are going to straight up step in and be like, your time is up. You'll survive with slightly lower home values. We can't have millions of young people going homeless or paying absurdly unaffordable rent prices just so you can sit back and narcissistically watch your real estate portfolio go up. There's one way and one way only to rebuild something after all the damage the boomers left us. We're just going to have to take up the mantle, become the new leaders, and ultimately reshape society to be a better world for ourselves and future generations. Gen Z revolutions have been sweeping the world right now. Some have been peaceful, others have been violent and chaotic. We cover all the potential ramifications and fallout of these revolutions in this video right here. Check it out. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.